in a recent Twitter space, Elon Musk and investor Cathie Wood engaged in a discussion about upcoming developments for 2024, including topics such as Grow AI and open source AI initiatives. They covered essential information crucial for those involved in the AI sector. The conversation was particularly intriguing as it addressed ongoing discussions within the Twitter community about open source AI. Musk also outlined timelines for open source AI developments, suggesting that the landscape could shift significantly in the next 6 months, potentially affecting GPT-4's dominance in the market. We were once familiar with such topics, and with that in mind, I hope you find this Twitter Space audio enjoyable. I'll provide a link to the full clip, which includes discussions about Tesla. But this edited version highlights specifically the segments where Elon Musk discusses AI, making it particularly relevant for those interested in the field.
It basically said, it seems that this is Grok talking. It seems that people are eager to hear about the latest developments in in Tesla's AI technologies. We definitely are, such as FSD 12 and the next generation platform for Robotaxi. They're also interested in learning more about the company's plans for the Optimus project. Additionally, there is a lot of curiosity surrounding Elon Musk's thought on the AI space, as well as his take on the future of Bitcoin. I guess that was a little repetitive AI there, but
Okay.
these topics are sure to spark some engaging discussions. That's Grok for you.
Okay. Well, Grok, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Um,
pretty good.
so,
AI and
well,
both.
and I do have more time than, if you
Oh,
would like to
good,
go longer than 15 minutes, we can go longer than 15 minutes.
super.
Right.
Um, I mean, I'm trying to distill my thoughts here on AI because I could really talk 4 hours on AI.
You know,
Uh,
we both Charlie and Brett are steeped in it. So is Frank, and of course Tasha. She's done our work on autonomous. But one of the things we've been very curious about is open source versus closed AI. And I don't know if you've seen I don't know if you've seen the chart that Frank and Joseph did on our team, but they drew a line. They basically calculated performance improvements in both the closed or private AI companies and models, large language models, and then the open ones. And open is behind closed, but the performance is improving at a steeper rate than closed. Do you have any thoughts about that and about open versus closed generally when it comes to AI?
sure. Well, I mean, I think a lot of people know that, I was instrumental in the creation of OpenAI, and in fact, I came up with the name.
Yeah,
The open in OpenAI means open source,
open, yes.
and it started as an open source nonprofit. And the reason I wanted to create it was to establish a counterweight to Google DeepMind, because it was a unipolar world at that point. It was, Google DeepMind had probably two-thirds or more of the top AI talent, and of course, um, vast computing and financial resources. And at the time, I was close friends with Larry Page, and it did not seem to me that he was taking AI safety seriously. So I felt there needed to be some, like I said, some counterweight, some competitor to sort of the Google DeepMind. And frankly, instrumental in creating the company was recruiting Ilya Sutskever,
Mm-hmm.
which was a back and forth thing where actually Ilya changed his mind a few times and ultimately decided to come to OpenAI. Um, and So I won that recruiting battle. And that is actually what caused Larry Page to stop being friends with me, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, but now, ironically, because fate loves irony, uh, OpenAI is super closed source and for maximum profit. It should be renamed closed for maximum profit AI. It won't be more accurate. So because that's it's literally the polar opposite of how it was started. Um, I guess I generally have a bias in favor of open source. Um, and you can see that certainly with the X platform, where we've open sourced the algorithm. Uh, and for example, for community notes, we open source uh, not just the algorithm, but all the data as well. So you can see exactly how a node was created. It can be audited by third parties. There's no mystery, nothing hidden at all.
I think
So
that's one of the seems to be one of the confusing things about open source as pertains to large language models is it's not as simple, and I think this has been lost in some of the debate, as just open sourcing the code. It's open source as the shades of gray here, of course, with parameter weights, data. There's all of that spectrum, and I think that's been maybe lost from some of the debate. So it's great to hear.
yeah, there's actually very little code, very little actual traditional lines of software. Certainly at the inference level, there's very little. It's a remarkably tiny number of lines of code. So it's just these giant, weights files and what your hyperparameter, you know, numbers are, and it's basically a giant comma separated value file. So I always find it amusing to contemplate that perhaps our digital god will be a CSV file. Like, and then you make a new CSV file that has maybe more weights, and the weights are better, and then you pretty much delete the old one. So just the AI is evolving and deleting its prior self constantly.
So we're going to worship a giant Excel file, essentially. That's perfect.
Kind of. I mean, you need a very big, yeah, it's a lot of cells, but it's really just a bunch of numbers, and then those numbers they're getting smaller in magnitude too. Going from FP16 to FP32 to FP16 to Int16 to Int8, and now it looks like things are trending towards mostly Int4. So they're not particularly large numbers. Yeah.
And back to
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm answering. I'm probably not answering the question, but I mean, I think it's true that closed source is not that far like from a time standpoint, not that far ahead of open source. But let's say, and if you assume open source is you have everything in 6 months, because of the immense rate of improvement of AI, that 6 months is actually a massive amount of time. I mean, or at least the delta in an exponentially improving situation, 6 months will, I think, feel like an eternity. So I think closed will outperform open by a meaningful amount at any given point in time.
and given
Um,
the
yeah.
I was just going to say, given the questions we were talking about before about truth and not truth, and do you think in 10 years' time AI will have been a net truth improver or detractor from where we are today?
Well, I think it'll be well. I mean, speaking for at least for Grok, I think it will be a significant truth improver. That is literally our goal: is to be maximum truth seeking, maximally curious, minimizing the error between perceived reality and described reality and actual reality, and always acknowledging the error, not being too confident about it. So I think there will be a competition for truth, and people will tend towards the one that they think is most accurate. So, and if there's at least one AI that is aiming for maximum accuracy, I think it pushes all of the AIs to aim for maximum accuracy. Just as with the X platform, FKA Twitter, as soon as X pushes for maximum truth and accuracy, it sort of forces the hand of others. The others now also have to do that.
Right, the truth arms race among the CSVs. And
Yeah.
is one of our theses, I think, with Arc is that Tesla is one of the most undervalued AI companies there is because of the insane amount of data you've got on all, to feed into autonomous. I don't know if there's any commentary on that, because I think, obviously with the rise of these LLM companies, which are by and large working off essentially available data that is not proprietary, the benefits coming to the companies like Tesla that understand how to use the AI benefits, but do have these enormous proprietary data pools, seems like that's going to be the next frontier.
Yeah, I think that's accurate, an accurate description. Tesla is one of the leading AI companies in the world, and with respect to real world AI, it is obviously by far and away the leader.
Mm-hmm.
So, the word large language model, with phrase large language model, LLM, is massively overused. But what I do see happening is somewhat of a convergence towards intelligence. It's Tesla, like really to make full self driving work, you kind of need baby AGI in the car, because you need to understand reality, and reality is messy and complicated. And just as a side effect, the car AI has to be able to read, for example.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be able to read arbitrary science as just a little side effect of understanding reality in every language. So you know, uh, things everything is coming down to different layers of transformers and diffusion, and how you put together the transformers and the diffusion. Um,
Does
that's
the
why
does the
that's why I sort of made that somewhat niche AI joke on the X platform. Who do you think will be president in 2032? Transformers or diffusion?
hmm. Do you think that switching to full stack AI for Tesla's full self-driving reduces the kind of forecast error for you in terms of when the problem will be solved? As in, you famously have said it's a year away for a few years now. Do you think that like actually line of sight, wherever it ends up, you'll have a better like line of sight on when you're going to cross a particular threshold of performance where it can go without human intervention?
Yeah, I mean the car is already incredibly good at driving itself. So uh, now, especially if you say like, okay, drive in California, wh- which is um, you know both generally easy driving, because you don't have heavy rain and snow and that kind of thing in most parts of California. And Tesla engineering is primarily in California, so it's going to overfit for solving California. But if you're just driving, say, around Palo Alto, the probability that you'll need an intervention at this point is incredibly low. And in fact, even if you're driving through San Francisco, the probability of an intervention at this point is very low. So we're really just going through a march of nines. Like, how many nines of reliability do you need before somebody does not need to monitor the system?
It's so interesting. GM basically shutting down Cruise. It wouldn't have been possible, right? But we didn't know that. Is that how you're viewing it now?
Well, it's certainly true that transformers are transformational.
Yes.
Um, so, uh, pretty much everyone's using transformers, uh, and it's really just how many transformers, what kind of transformers are you using? Autoregressive transformers, which are very memory bandwidth intensive. Um, but I think I'm not sure you can really do AI without transformers in a meaningful way. Diffusion is also very important. Um, so, I mean, it just really looks like AGI is some combination of transformers and diffusion. Um,
That's
yeah.
interesting. Does diffusion help Elon in the things that transformers are not necessarily that good at yet, like planning and remembering, rather than sort of a current state?
Uh, I, I think transformers are important for all aspects of AI. Um, yeah, I mean, computers are very good at remembering things. I mean,
Fair.
your phone remembers the video that you took down to the last pixel, whereas most humans cannot remember who they met last week. So
Amen
memory
to that.
is the easy. I mean, we've already outsourced memory to computers. Uh, in that, like you say, how much of human knowledge is in digital form in versus in uh, contained in human neurons? It's overwhelmingly in silicon rather than biological neurons.
Right.
So I mean, and there are these. I mean, I think it's always it's good to think of like I try to consider what are the most fundamental ratios. This is like in physics, you always think about looking at fundamental ratios. Um, and some of the one of the fundamental ratios is the ratio of digital to biological compute. Um,
Right.
just just in raw compute, and how much and the ratio of digital memory to biological memory.
Mhm.
So at what point like I think at this point I think we're probably over 99% of all memory is digital as opposed to biological. So you've got I think over 100 digital to biological ratio in memory at this point, trending towards 1,000, and many orders of magnitude beyond that. Um, then you've got the digital to biological compute ratio, and since the number of humans is more or less constant, I'm worried about it. Humans declining quite significantly in the years to come because the birth rate is so low. Um, but so human computers more or less it looks like a flat line versus time, whereas the digital compute is exponential.
Right.
Um, and you know, at some point, it's that will also be above 100, meaning more than 99% of all compute will be digital instead of biological.
Right.
And if we're not there already, we will be within a year or two.
Although it is amazing how much data biology can store. I reckon, I believe it's estimated that a gram of dried DNA can store between 400 and 500 exabytes. So maybe there's
If,
still things to learn from biology, but yes, incredible the pace of change.
yeah, I mean, if you encode memories in DNA like a ticker tape, then the DNA memory potential is immense. But I'm not sure that's actually what's happening, or if it is, it's I don't know. I'm not sure why my memory is so terrible.
But
So
actually, I mean, your memory in terms of the raw details, like you have an amazing search function, right? I
for a
mean,
human,
it's kind of like, yeah. Well, for any, I mean, I would argue kind of in some ways like the transformer architecture enables effective search of a very, very broad amount of data. And or that's or it's like data compression. It seems like the yes, there's many more like databytes encoded or gigabytes encoded in disk, but actually being able to effectively search that space is pretty still primitive with compute, at least at large scale, relative to humans' ability to access information. No?
I mean, it's still some things that humans do better than computers. Um, I mean, if you look say like computers have not yet discovered any fundamental physics, but humans have discovered a lot of fundamental physics. The computers have not yet invented a useful technology. Humans have invented many useful useful technologies. Um, so you know, um, yeah.
Do you think that, do you ascribe to the notion that like you essentially training AI systems on language is not enough, and that you have to have some kind of embodied source of data, like through an Optimus robot, to actually get kind of the raw learning in that a AI system would need to understand fundamental physics.
Yeah, so that's what I think is coming. I think what's coming is AI understanding fundamental physics, and AI inventing new technologies.
It definitely feels like, rather than, even though some things now apparently pass the Turing test, most importantly, passing the money penny test, as in, can an AI actually pay bills, do expense reports to the extent James Bond did those, and actually pay parking fines and things like that. That would actually be a very good use of AI that I think would have a lot of users immediately. And maybe the Billy Connolly test of, can an AI actually be consistently funny? Those feel like they're
Yeah,
a long way out.
Grok is pretty funny.
That's fair.
I think one of our goals for Grok is to be the funniest AI. So, I mean, if you ask Grok to provide a vulgar roast, it's really good.
And speaking of Grok, to not let down our future AI overlords, the final question on the Grok summary that Kathy touched on was the future of Bitcoin. Not sure if we want to touch on that or not, or whether that's out of
Yeah,
scope. But
that